just understand that there's more ways to help a baseball team than offensively. I can go play defense. I kind of let Vladdy down there in the second or first inning, whatever it was. That's on me. I told him that. Whether it's walk, do anything that I can. Stay in the moment. If I can, not have success at the plate, but I can get somebody over to third base, I'm all right with it. I understand that, but at the same time, I also understand that I need to be better. I understand that. So, but there's, just go out in the field and play as hard as I can. Run as hard as I can, and hopefully the results will start to come.
Well, that was George Springer, who did see some results last night, and so did the Blue Jays, as a matter of fact, as the Blue Jays beat the Boston Red Sox 9-4 at Fenway Park, a 7-run inning in the third. They batted around. Vladdy, 2 doubles, 4 RBI. George Springer, a 2-run home run. That kind of capped off that 7th inning. And
third inning.
And, of course, it was Bo Bichette's first game back, and there was much talk before the game about the lineup. And,
Yeah, I read Twitter today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I read Jeff Blair's Twitter. Oh, yeah.
What did I say
Somebody
in Twitter?
showed me.
What did I say in Twitter?
Something about me. Basically, I didn't have anything. I had no idea what I was talking about.
I did not.
I should never speak again about John Schneider's lineup.
I just said John Schneider's.
That's basically what you said.
I said John Schneider's a genius. That's what I said. And after you...
And you pointed the finger at old Keva.
Well, after you calling him out, what was it? That is dumb?
Yeah, I'm sticking
smart.
to it. Yeah, I'm sticking to it.
I mean, Bo Bichette leading off. I mean, ultimately, really, he did draw a walk, but the damage was done farther down the order. 7-10, by the way, is the first pitch tonight as the Jays look to win the series. Yariel Rodriguez against Cutter Crawford. Chris Bassitt will join us in a few minutes from Fenway Park. So Vladdy's last 9 hits, 3 home runs, 3 doubles, 3 singles.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a bit of a heater.
Oh, he is a heater.
He's on a bit of a heater right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I asked you this on Blue Jays Talk last night, but I will ask you again. Are you seeing anything? Are you seeing anything different from Vladdy?
Yeah, he's calibrating. He's hitting the fastball a little bit better. Coming into last night, he's hitting .83 on fastballs, 97 and above. Last night, the double that he hit on the 3-1 sinker down was 97 miles an hour that he hit to center field. I think he's calibrating a little bit better, right?
Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, don't do it twice to me. Like, I'm not going to miss it twice in at bat now because I can calibrate because I think the 1-0 sinker that he fouled off, that he was way late on to right field, it's that kind of thing, right? It's adjusting on the fly. It's in and at bat. You did it to me once. You won't do it to me again. I'm going to be ready. I get in a hitter's count. I can sort of educate guests on what's coming. I get it started just a little bit sooner. I get my foot down, that fruition thing that he does with his lower half. Everything's working in unison. That way the bat can get on plane. It's by his ear. It's shorter and quicker. He can get to his little uppercut finish. It's calibrating. It's kind of things like that. So, yeah, the 9 RBI is a big deal for him. It's a big deal for me. Again, there's a lot of bad things going on in this lineup, but when this dude is doing this, you can close your eyes and overlook him. Like, you can overlook what Springer's talking about there, which I'd never say that. If I was making $25 million, I'd never say it's okay for me not to get hits. But this is sort of what you wanted to see, like the third inning, right?
Time out.
Well, that's facts.
Well, no, time out here. You're making it. I don't think George Springer was saying, boy, if I can just run fast and play good defense, I'll be perfectly happy. I think it's pretty obvious that he knows what's going on. I don't think he's certainly happy with the lack of offense. I just think he's making the point I made. I mean, if try to contribute in other ways. Again, the contract doesn't matter.
Yeah, the
contract doesn't matter right now.
The reality is
the guy is on.
John Snyder's not going to hit him 7th, 8th, or 9th. He's going to have to hit more.
Well, you know what?
The hit it where it's pitched last night kind of thing. That's right. The ball up the middle, the 2 balls the other way. You create a little backspin on a hanging slider because you're square to the ball. Like, those are things they have to have him do. He's going to hit 4th, 5th, or 6th.
It is not on George Springer if the manager and the khakis are going to run him out there in the cleanup spot or the 5th spot. That's not on him. That's
Well, you're
not
gonna
on
need
him.
more. You're
It's
gonna need more offensively.
It's entirely possible that this guy is really on the downside of his career.
Maybe.
And maybe he is an 8th place hitter who can play good defense and maybe help a bit. Again, this is it all gets back to his contract with people, and that is just dumb. You're paid in this game based on what you did. He's going to get his money whether he goes 4 for 5 or 0 for 5 today.
Until there's 2.5 more years left of that. And
well, yeah.
It's the obvious, easy thing to point the finger at. And you're the highest paid dude on the team. Like, sorry, it's facts. Like, they need you to hit more than a $1.90.
Maybe he can't do that.
That's it. $1.90.
Kevin,
maybe last night will show you that he can. If he gets a better pitch to hit, going straight right field, if you're a right-handed hitter in Fenway Park, is not the easiest thing to do. No, I didn't say that. But I said you can see that it's in there. If he just has a little, if he had, he got 3 hits. He had 3 hits. And one of them was a backleg city. Yeah, no, absolutely it's in there. Like, I'm not saying you have to go 3 for 4 every night, but occasionally it'd be nice for him to, take the good one and swing at the one that hangs. And when you get it, don't miss it. It's this kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, look.
I get back to this. It is not George Springer's fault how he's being used. It's not. It's not his fault how he's being used. Yeah, and I'm sure George knows what's up, right? I'm sure he's probably...
He's a smart guy. His scoreboard's never been bigger in the big leagues. He knows exactly what's up.
He probably understands that he's on the downside of his career.
No question.
But you know what? It's not his fault.
Not his fault. What?
That he's on the downside of his career. It's not his fault that he's making $25 million a year.
There's a downside. There's a $1.90. Like, that's, again. I think you can build off of what he did last night. The confidence now, he should be going in there knowing that, if I take the high velocity that's closer to me, I got a better chance of creating a little loft and some backspin on the ball away from me. Like, I just swing at a strike. I don't swing at a pitcher's pitch. This just means when you're on the back nine, everybody goes on the back. I was on the back nine. I was choking up in the Mexican League. Like, it's facts. Spreading out, choking up. Dude's throwing 85 miles an hour. It just happens. But you do what you have to do. That's the point, I think. And, good for him. Like, I just don't know if I'd have said that, but I liked what he did last night and the things he can do. And the play with Vladdy. Look, that's a tough play. Like, you get a big guy like that moving, shuffling backwards, standing straight up and down, almost ready to fall over. That's a tough play. For me, Vladdy either makes that play or you don't make it. Like, that's a tough play. So good, at least good for him that he, said that and took up for his teammate.
I think you're reading way too much into what guys say.
No.
Yeah, you are. You're making it sound like George is happy. I don't need to hit. I can just play. That's different. I think what he's saying is, I know I stink right now. I've got to figure out other ways to contribute, and I'm contributing in other ways.
Okay. I mean, fingers crossed he does it from now on. Like, he's playing great defense. You can't argue with the defense.
I'm saying he's playing really good defense.
He does defensively. That's what I said. Yeah, it gets back to that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. thing. If Vladdy can continue to have the at-bats he's starting to have now and laying off the balls that are way in and can force them on the plate and can calibrate a little bit quicker in those at-bats, and all them other dudes can do what they do, as long as they got a couple of guys getting on in front of him. John makes out that lineup the right way.
Were you holding your breath when Brendan Little was in the game facing Rafi Devers?
He's fortunate. Like,
he got a little bit.
Yeah, the knuckle curveball wasn't real good, right? It's very erratic. Nobody argues his stuff. Like, his stuff's off the charts, and the little weird arm angle that he's got when he releases the ball. But, again,
it does look like Dan Schulman. It looks a little bit like Aaron Loop.
Aaron Loop was deceptive where he released the ball. Like, when it's down way below your shoulder when you release the baseball, that's different than where Little's more short arm, a little closer to your ear. It's just the non-competitive nature of the ball out of the hands of ball. Like, and as a hitter, who cares if your stuff's nasty? You can't throw one of them for strikes. I can eliminate that one. I can force you on the plate. Then the velocity doesn't matter as much. That little deception that you got doesn't matter as much. So a long-winded answer, yes. But he got it done. It's the bottom line. Who cares? It's the part of the year now where does it matter how it looks? As long as you're getting it done.
Can I ask you a question about Vladdy last night and that ball that was hit down into the left field corner? Dan made a comment that I thought was interesting. Do you think the fact that the Jays were able to get a couple of runs in and Vladdy ended up in third, how much of that came down to the third base coach knowing that park really well, Carlos Fablis? I mean, he coached there forever. It was, we've talked about how it can be a funky ballpark and weird things do happen. That's just not a baseball thing. I've seen a lot of games there. Weird stuff does happen at Fenway Park.
Yeah.
It's built to be weird. But how much of that do you think had to do with the third base coach knowing that?
It's a game
as
of
well?
angles. It's absolutely right. I mean, it's up to the third base coach to stop you. It's up to the player to force him to stop you. And you give everybody credit that was running. Like Vladdy kept running he ran with his eyes up. That's what you do as a base runner. You run until that third base coach has to stand in front of you and basically push you over. And give Fabulous credit, right? He was in fair territory looking down that line, making sure, right, it's bouncing one way. Did the guy pick it up the right way? Is he hitting the cutoff guy? Like all those things that go into, you got that split second to make up your mind. When's he close to third? When's the guy catching the ball? When does he release it? Determines on whether I want to send him or not. So absolutely. And you got to push it a little bit, right? They're having trouble scoring runs. A lot of that's about where you're at in the order. And, Turner and some guys are having some better at bats. So you might not push it as much as you would want to this time of the year. But absolutely. Like it's go time.
What do we make of Kevin Gossman last night? 6 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts. He did give up a couple of home runs. The velocity was up.
Yeah.
Didn't use the slider. I think he threw one slider.
It stunk. That's why.
He knew that early.
Yeah, absolutely.
And credit for him because that is a tough lineup.
I think the velocity allows him to pound the zone 65% of the time with a fastball. When you see that number that big, tells you he's feeling frisky and it's a good velocity with it, right? Now I don't got to nibble with it. Like, if I get it up enough, you're out. If I get it away enough consistently to most of those lefties, my splitter will tunnel a little bit longer because I'm throwing it harder. He just looked a little bit more fluid. Like he wasn't overthinking. He'd lift the leg. It was landing.
Looked a little bit more like the Kevin Gossman we saw last year.
I think they understand. Like the guys that matter on that team to get the ball and are trying to give them a quality start and give that lineup a chance. I just think they get it. And, you try and adjust. You understand slider ain't no good. I ain't throwing it.
What?
The sinker ain't going to abuse it, especially after a dude hits it to Jupiter. You don't throw it as much. So
what happened to Brian Bayo in that inning?
Yeah, I don't think he had command. I think back-to-back starts against the same team's not the easiest thing to do.
Good point.
You're running in there. The Jays knew that he's going to try and get them to chase off the plate.
Which he did.
You got to force him on the plate. Yeah. Make him throw quality pitches. If he doesn't, pitch counts go up. He don't go as many innings. And then you got to turn it over to a bullpen that's So, and it gives you a better chance of having the bigger inning, right? The more pitches he throws, the more he starts to aim. He's, trying to sort of finesse the changeup in there, get the slider in there where he wants it. The two-seamer, sinker, whatever you want to call that thing, whenever he's throwing it that hard. I mean, the velocity was still there. I just think they had a better approach. I think they executed. And I think that third inning was a big deal, right? I mean, you see Jansen using his legs a little bit better, putting the barrel on plane, gives him a chance to hit something down. That's been his bugaboo lately is the ball down and down away. IKF all year, baseball IQ, right? It's the bunt. Devers, yep. I see you playing back. I'm bunting because I don't think you can run in, catch it, and throw me out. We're playing for the big inning. And then they're going to third base, put pressure on a guy in the outfield to make the perfect throw. When you don't, you score. Guy comes around to third base, just makes it easier for everybody coming to the plate. Bo had a team at bat. How many times have we seen that? I know it was his first game back, but it's those kind of things, right? You saw KK have a 2-strike hit. He's hitting a $119 with 2 strikes. Like, you just don't see that a lot. This is the third inning, right? And then the Vladdy calibrating thing and the Turner, the situational hitting, right? Second, third, nobody out. Get him in. Get him over. It's about the dude standing on the on-deck circle. It's about having the big inning. It's about seeing your starting pitcher having a good day. You see it, and every little run, every little situation matters. And then Springer comes up and hits it where it's pitched, right? If it's up and away, hit it to right center or right field. Don't try and get out and around it. Don't cheat. You just mentioned it, right? If he does a little thing offensively to help your team, that's good enough. So it's just sort of, I think if you're the front office and you're John Snyder, this is what you've been yelling and screaming about is the third inning. Can they consistently have some innings like that where each dude walks up and goes, I'm doing me? And then it just sort of plays out. That was awesome to watch.
Yeah. No, it was kind of a rare example lately of the type of inning that I think a lot of us expected to see from this team.
Yeah.
A little bit of power.
With the starting pitching they
patience.
got, you have innings like this, you can win a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And that is true, and we've talked about it all year long. I know that you hear from the starting pitchers that they think they can do better, they think they can be better, but they've carried a huge portion of the load for the Blue Jays this season.
Yep.
And included in that group is our next guest. Chris Bassitt joins us in Blair and Barker. Chris, thanks so much for talking to us today. We trust that you're doing well. Just a question about today. Showing up at the park today after that win last night, which came after a tough loss the night before. Does it feel a lot different in the clubhouse today?
I mean, the situation really hasn't changed. It's just get business as we have to do today. I mean, get the job done today. It's really no happier or sad than yesterday. It's just got to get it done today.
Chris, I know whenever, for me anyway, when I watch you, it's about the two different fastballs and it's about that slow breaking ball. Whenever you're throwing that slow breaking ball, whenever you're getting loose and you're trying to get the feel of that pitch, how do you know if it's going to be good or not?
I would say more so just like being fundamentally understanding about how my mechanics are for that pitch, just making sure I'm more in line than I would say I need to with my fastball and things like that. And if I feel in sync mechanically without having to think about it, I know it's going to be good that day.
When you're in the bullpen warming up for a game, and knowing that you have that wide repertoire of pitches, how do you decide how many of each pitch you're going to throw when you're warming up? I've often wondered that watching you in the bullpen. Do you have is it just what feels good, or is there a particular plan, a particular sequence?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have me and Pete, we do a lot of homework, I would say, even like in the bullpens before the start, and we have a really good understanding of the lineup that we should be facing. We have an idea of kind of who's going to be in the lineup. And then it's just working on pitches that we think we're going to need most for that team. And so that will also carry into like warming up for that day. And I just got to get the certain amount of pitches going that I know I'm going to need to say face whatever lineup it is. And obviously every lineup's a little different. So what pitches I need that day are also going to be a little different.
Chris, how are you and the PitchCom getting along?
It's fine. It's good. It's just obviously them shortening the time is a little tricky, but overall it's fine.
It seems to me that you've actually, watching you on TV and just saying, I think it looks to me like you've kind of turned it into a bit of a weapon, to be honest. For you, in a good way.
It's not a. I mean, it is what it is. It's the nature of the game now with the pitch clock, and obviously with the running games and everything else like that. It's very difficult to say control a running game, so-called catch your breath when you have so little time in between pitches now. So, kind of me being able to just call my own game, not just shake off or anything like that. We get to buy an extra second or two. But for the guys that really don't call their own game, which I understand a lot of them don't, and I'm not saying everyone should, but the guys that don't, it's harder to control a running game. It's harder to so-called catch your breath because you're constantly kind of always at the mercy of the clock because you're running time down a lot faster by basically not calling your own game.
Yariel's pitching tonight. Chris, what's been your sort of first impressions with him, and what do you think he needs to do to sort of help his game along a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, really electric stuff. I think his fastball usage needs to go up a little bit, and then just get him more in the zone and more comfortable throwing in the zone. But I mean, it's the beauty of the game that we really don't know yet what lineups are trying to do with him. He's so new that hitters are still trying to adjust to what he does, and we're trying to adjust the same way of what he should do to hitters. And it's a learning curve. And so I think he's doing a really good job of it. It's just a matter of getting him in the zone because the more you're in the zone, the more you can kind of figure out, okay, this is my strengths, these are my weaknesses. But I mean, if you're constantly behind in counts, it's harder to figure that out. So I would just say, like I said, more fastballs and be in the zone.
Chris, I understand, obviously you've been around forever, and I would think consistent delivery is a big deal, right? Repeating that delivery over and over and over again and allows you to have the same release point. With Yariel doing the start and stop thing, is it hard, and you mentioned the more fastballs and being able to command that to different quadrants, is that hard to make a mechanical change mentally in season to try and make yourself better?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say the biggest thing for starting pitching or any pitching in general is mechanics. You have to have sound mechanics. Even if you have different mechanics, they all have to be sound then. But yeah, I mean, pitching is literally the more and more you can repeat a delivery, the better you're going to be. So yeah, it's difficult.
We had Jason Stark and Nino Saris on a couple of days ago, and they were talking about their article on just on run offense in general in baseball and how much technology pitchers are using and all this. And one of the things that that they talked about was how you're seeing more and more pitchers now with 3 fastballs. We're seeing guys who aren't afraid to use multiple fastballs. You, of course, I mean, you throw a lot of pitches. If we could fast forward 2 or 3 years from now, do you think we'll be seeing more pitchers who are comfortable throwing 5, 6, 7 pitches?
Yeah, I think it's kind of never been more. You've never been more in tune to so-called tinker with pitches and try to add a pitch here and there than you are right now, just because there's so many of them. But I mean, it's also kind of goes back to kind of what I was saying about, like, the league's going to adjust to you, and you have to adjust to the league. That, I mean, if you only are a 2-3 pitch guy, say a 2-pitch guy, and the league can't adjust to you, then I mean that's good for you. Mm-hmm. But I mean there's only a handful of guys that are like that. So I think you kind of always have to kind of adapt to the league, and usually that is adding, say, a pitch or 2.
Chris, I've always wanted to ask you, you talked about the PitchCom, and you talked about, a lot of the times reading bats, right? You have a game plan against a certain guy. You go in and throw it. Looks like he's got a little bit better frisky at bat with that pitch. I wonder what goes through your mind when you see that you have to read a bat, sort of changing game plans when you sort of, I would think, got it planned out on how you want to get a certain guy out.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect scenario that I think I can kind of explain it is basically these back-to-back starts against Boston. Like the first game against Boston, I thought a lot of the lefties were basically trying to see my heater deep and try to hit it the opposite way. Obviously, they have a lot of guys like Devers and Duran and things like that have the power to hit homers the other way. But like the second time I faced them, I thought they were a lot more pull-oriented and working more up the middle. So obviously that will kind of change my game plan of kind of how I need to attack or where I need to throw pitches. So, yeah, having the ability to read a swing, it makes you that much more likely to change, say, an approach on a certain guy, even though the approach to start the game was way different. But you got to kind of trust your eyes in that moment.
It's awesome.
Chris, I'm wondering with the team where it is right now, obviously there's a lot of talk. I don't think anybody's happy with the team's record. There's a lot of talk about possible changes. How hard has it been, or how much time goes into keeping a clubhouse together at a time like this?
Yeah, I think we have too many kind of grown-ups in the room to let it kind of get to us. I don't think it's been an issue whatsoever. I think the belief in this team really hasn't wavered in the clubhouse. I think we think we're still, say, a World Series contender. It's just we went through a bad stretch. Like every single team in the big leagues, I don't care who you are, you're going to go through a 14-game streak so you're going to put up a record that does not look good. And then you're going to also go through a 2-week stretch where you're the hottest team in baseball. That's just the reality of our sport, and that's never going to change. I just think how many teams are that good in the big leagues right now, I don't know if there's really ever been a time where we've had this many good teams. And that's a credit to a lot of other organizations. But our belief, our togetherness, our work ethic and things like that, I don't think there's been a single person that's like even once thought about, say, blowing the team up or trading guys. Like we're not even close to thinking like that.
Chris, really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. Keep it going, man.
Yeah,
really
good luck,
appreciate
Chris.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Take care. Chris Bassitt of the Toronto Blue Jays. His last 4 starts have been pitched to an ERA of 1.73, 7 innings, 6 innings, 5 innings, 8 innings, going back to that start in Oakland.
Yeah, adjusting on the fly is a big deal, especially for veteran guys. He mentioned that back-to-back starts, lefties trying to do certain things. You game planning against a guy differently, showing him a different look. He mentioned the Red Sox trying to take the sinker the other way. You know, he's not a tremendous hard thrower. It's not like he's going to throw a bunch of fastballs in fastball counts. So he's got to somehow set that thing up right. It's about tunneling and being unpredictable. And, he took a really good swing on something that I thought I made a really good pitch on. Now what do I do? And you got that pitch clock or PitchCom or whatever you want to call it. It's a – like
I'm serious. That is making. I think that's made him. I think it's making him a better pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know. I would bet if you backed him in a room and said, "Would you rather not have it?" He'd probably be in that camp or rather not having it. I think he's being forced into figuring it out. I think he'd rather have more time to read bats. He did that. I threw this. I want to throw this now to set him up in his next at bat because I know I can get him out this way because I just read about how he was swinging against that certain pitch. You can't do that in 18 seconds. And now it's all of a sudden, and now it's tiempo, and look, the ball's dirty. And, it's like if I'm facing him, I'm telling the umpire, stop letting him throw the ball out. Uncle with the ball throw. Like, hey, he's doing it on purpose. Don't let him do it.
Listen,
he's playing with me. I don't like that.
I have to tell you that right now, I think obviously, he and Trevor Richards have been in some ways the most consistent pitchers this year. Jose Barrios has been really good.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I love watching Chris Bassitt pitch. It's like you're living and dying with him. You're living and dying.
Well, you're trying to think along with him too, right?
I'm not even going to bother.
Well, I try. He's a three-pitch guy who sprinkles in the other 4. Like he's
but that thing is
mainly a 2 fastball curveball guy. Like, and then he's sprinkling in the sweeper, the slider, the split finger.
But
like he's doing all that.
That he sprinkles it in. But that's the point. You know that he sprinkles it in.
Yeah,
you know that he sprinkles
I
it
would
in.
like to think if I could do the Devers thing that happened to the curveball. He throws me 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. Could I do that? As a left-handed hitter, could you wait on it, tongue out, just off balance, trying to hit that thing as hard? It's like Bugs Bunny. You seen that cartoon where it's like tongues just hanging out? That's the sort of back and forth, and you look a little bit like he chuckled when I probably shouldn't have thrown that to you. To cut her up and in would have been a better pitch. I could probably throw a breaking ball after my cutter up and in. It's like, but you didn't. And I was looking for it, and that's what happens to it. It's just, that's the beauty of baseball. That's why I love it. And
it's
people like Chris, whenever he's doing his thing, it's rare, Jeff, that you see the feel of a little slow breaking ball that's got a giant hook anymore. It's like max effort, tunneling, looking like the 97-mile-an-hour fastball. But it's basically, he's flipping it. You can see it, but it's so slow. It's like, I can't hit it. And he's locating it to both sides of the plate. I'm sure it's very frustrating for hitters to try and figure all that out.
We got Jays tickets to give away to see the Jays and Astros. We got David Samson, host of Nothing Personal, joining us. Caleb Joseph in studio as well. Don't go anywhere. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. Okay, I got to get a little bit of business out of the way here. No, it's David Wedge, who's a listener of the show, sent me a DM. Since I followed him as well last night.
Instagram or Twitter? What is the X?
No, I just thought this was nice. Hi, Jeff. If this is inappropriate, please feel free to ignore me. Nothing's inappropriate with me. But as I listened to yesterday's show while going to sleep, maybe Virginia mountain accents are soothing, I suddenly realized that you haven't said hi, Mom, for quite a while. as one who was very connected to my elderly parents through baseball, I truly hope everything is okay.
It's very nice.
And David, that's one of the nicest DMs I've received. Usually they're not that nice. And you're absolutely right. So hello, Mom. Hello, Ma Barker. Hello, Kevin's dad.
Very cool.
Shout out to all the folks in the dining hall at Homestead and Morden.
That's awesome, Jeff.
So there, all kidding aside and everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Everything's well with my mom. I'm glad your dad is doing well. They're both elderly. Mom's going to turn 100 this year. Your father's 96. So I wanted to say that because I thought it was really sweet.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to me.
We got some really good fans on this show.
I realized that I hadn't said hi to my mom on TV for a while.
Yeah.
And believe me,
you haven't been a good son lately, but that's okay.
I'll tell you what. And if listen, most of you, if you think you're pissed off with the Blue Jays, ooh, Emily Blair, you got nothing on her, man.
Man,
oh, you got nothing.
Is
on
she
her.
the only 100-year-old that doesn't look 100? Like every time you FaceTime me when you're around your mother, she looks like she's like 60. Like she just
I don't know,
yelling at you.
It must be.
Awesome.
I know, yelling and there's
That's awesome.
The apple doesn't fall
No.
far from the tree. But anyhow, I wanted to make sure that I said that. And David, thank you very much. As I said,
Thanks, David.
It made your message made my day.
That's sweet.
And it's something we need to do.
We don't do it enough.
We do not do it enough. You know what we do though? We give away tickets to see the Blue Jays. We've been doing it. You like that segue? We've been giving away tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. This longtime player and MLB All-Star was an Astro for 2 seasons in the 2000s between longer stints with the Giants and Dodgers, but started out his career as a rookie in the early 90s as a Blue Jay. The answer is
You would have never got that.
No.
I wouldn't either.
No, the answer is Jeff Kent, who Jeff Kent's one of those. I just don't know what to make of his career. There are guys that I feel guilty about not voting for as Hall of Famers.
I can't believe you haven't voted for him.
And yeah.
Why have you not voted for him?
Well, I'm certainly not the only
He
person.
protected Barry Bonds.
I'm certainly not the only person who hasn't voted for Jeff.
Well,
Kent.
shame on everybody that hasn't.
But two, we don't want to get in the whole thing, but I vote for 1 or 2 guys. I never use 10. I never use 10. But
have anything to do with because he's not a nice person?
Not at all. I did.
Well,
I'll tell you what, Eddie Murray, who never spoke to reporters, first ballot Hall of Famer. I voted for Eddie Murray. I generally don't care. I mean, I'm the guy that votes for Clemens, but I don't need you to be nice to me to vote for you. I mean, if you're a jerk to me, chances are I'm not going to vote for you.
Do you think that has any reason to do why Jeff is not in the Hall of Fame?
Not for me, because my dealings with Jeff Kent maybe,
and you don't have a good reason.
My dealings with Jeff Kent have been limited, but I think maybe in some cases it is.
I think protecting the homers, the RBIs, I think that playing second. Like, what more do you want?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's one of those guys that I think will probably end up. The Veterans Committee will probably look at putting in, although that's never a sure thing either.
No.
But anyhow, Jeff Kent, that was a great trivia question. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Astros at the Rogers Center on Tuesday, July 2nd. This pitcher was selected in the Rule 5 draft in 2015. I got this one as soon as I read that, Mark. This pitcher was selected in the Rule 5 draft in 2015 by the Blue Jays and enjoyed a few seasons in Toronto before being dealt to the Astros in 2019. Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590.
Let me see it.
It's a very popular member of the Blue Jays whose popularity I never figured out. But anyhow, there you go. I'm being honest about it.
Well,
I'm being honest. He's very popular, and
he was a decent pitcher for a while.
We've lowered the bar on sort of, oh my God, I can't get over what a great guy he was. He's so funny. He makes me. No. Anyhow, there you go.
He was different. That's what it was.
He was different.
He was a good pitcher for a while.
So yeah, Jeff Kent is the one. Yeah, odd. But
Well, you messed it up. You can say it. You messed up and
No,
should
I
have
haven't
voted for
messed up.
Jeff
I generally
Kent.
don't
You
mess up. I just
You
don't.
did.
No, you got to be
You
really
vote
good
for the
to
same people all the time.
Well, you got to be a
It's
great.
like, you vote for A-Rod. Of course I did. I'm the only one.
You got,
Like,
not
it's
the only one.
Well,
You got to be a great. You got to be a great player to be in the Hall of Fame. You got to be a once in a lifetime type of player to be in the Hall of Fame.
Anymore,
the way
you
I
do.
look at it. Obviously, not with the way people. And again, and I don't have a problem. You vote. It's like arguing about. This is the thing that separates the Hall of Fame from the Hockey Hall of Fame. A Hockey Hall of Fame, the argument is always, and again, it's the case this year. Why is that guy in? Baseball Hall of Fame, the argument's always, how come that guy's not in? Which is what it's supposed to be.
yeah. It's getting less and less of that.
It's you are right. You know what? It's getting. I think Jason talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it's getting harder and harder because a lot of those. How many guys are going to hit 500 home runs?
Yeah, look.
A lot of those markers are going.
Jeff,
right?
sometimes I think things you don't have to overthink. If you look at a dude and say, "Is he a Hall of Famer?" You almost can go, "Yes, he is."
Yeah, but
no, he's not.
But
if you have to sit around and make up stats,
absolutely,
to check mark his name on a ballot, he's probably not a Hall of Famer.
I agree 100%. Here's the thing: if you need to take 15 minutes to explain to me why a guy's a Hall of Famer, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. Like that part of it, I just don't understand.
Anyway, it is what it is.
It is. I don't like it.
Yariel Rodriguez starts for the Blue Jays tonight against Cutter Crawford.
You don't seem very excited about that.
I'm not excited about it. Do you want to see the Jays lineup?
Yeah, I do. Would love to hear it.
Okay, let me read the Jays lineup.
Winning lineup.
I got a good feeling about tonight.
Really?
Yeah. Bichette leading off. Horwitz at second. Vladdy, Turner. Your guy George Springer in right field. He's hitting fifth. Davis Schneider in left.
I love how they put me on the
Danny
camera.
Jansen. What?
Just every time you say that, they put me on the
Danny
camera.
Jansen behind the plate. IKF and Kevin Kiermaier.
That's a winning. Again, do what they did in the third inning, and they'll be fine.
Somebody on Twitter right underneath it says, release Ernie from John's basement.
I don't get it, but hey, look, you say IKF's playing third. I think that makes sense. The left side of the infield, I think, is a big deal. I think with Yariel throwing tonight with the stuff that he's throwing, you need to catch every single ball and make every single play that you can possibly make so you don't destroy
I think
bullpens.
we saw.
I get it. I'm not saying Ernie can't do that, but I think they like
Ernie
IKF
came into the game defensively last night too. But I don't get the
They do have 8 lefties in the lineup tonight for the Red Sox, so the right side of the infield is going to be a big deal.
Going to get a lot of work.
It is.
Get a lot of work.
Yeah.
So Yariel Rodriguez, I got this theory.
I
got this theory, and I thought about it since the Jays signed him. I think this is a guy that they are going to have to put into the bullpen, not this year, but they're going to have to put in the bullpen eventually. Because I look at next year's team. They're not going to have Romano.
Yeah.
They're not going to have Garcia.
Okay.
Probably won't have Romano. Not going to have Romano. Not going to have Garcia. Don't want Tim Mesa back. I mean, there's going to be a lot of openings.
I guess. I mean,
bullpen, and this guy, maybe he's the type of guy that
to do what?
I mean, I would have
to do what?
Could you turn him into could he be a leverage guy for you? He's going to get the money. He's going to get the money he's going to get regardless of how you use it.
I think they paid him to be a starter. No.
Okay. I don't know.
I think they gave him term and money to be a starter because they know what's not coming back next year in the rotation.
I also think
it's going to be 100.
I also think that they now shout out to Chris Bassitt too. Then when I was saying hi to all the people, shout out to Chris Bassitt. Happy 100.
Next year.
I also think, though, that Alek Manoah's status has complicated things as far as the rotation goes next year. Well, but I'm thinking, no, you can't, but I think they did. I'm
going to say this, and I'll continue to say it, and you're going to roll your eyes. You probably throw something at me.
I will not.
This is Yusei Kikuchi all over again. This is a right-handed Yusei.
It's
right
entirely possible.
That PD comes in and watches what Yariel's doing. And all the starting and stopping, which they do not like it just does not work. And the reason why it doesn't work today, coming into today, over 21 pitches per inning, 5.9 walks per 9. Just those 2 things right there. That's no bueno. That's why I made it a point to ask Chris about all of the stuff that goes on to look the same. How do I look the same all the time? Why do you think Barrios is much better? Why do you think you say so much better? They've simplified it so much that now they don't have to think about it. This dude is thinking about when he's kicking it, how long he's holding it, which arm angle do I want to use? How do I want to trick him? Instead of just going, I got a good fastball. It's hard. If I locate it to quadrants and I can throw it basically most of the time where I want it to throw, I'll get more chase percentage, which his zone percentage, his chase percentage, his first pitch strike percentage is all below league average. That can't continue. This is my point, is because of all of the stuff that's happening. This is, again, the first time I saw this guy, I thought you say. Petey's going to watch that for a while. He's going to let him see if that will play out against big league hitters consistently. And then when it's not, he's going to basically say, you ain't doing that no more. That's where they're at with this guy. This is why Chris even came on and said he's got to throw more fastballs. He can't throw 37 or 8% fastballs anymore. He just can't do that. Like, you just can't consistently repeat everything and have the good enough feel of the secondary stuff, of all the, all that breaking stuff, the slider, the curveball, the split finger. Like, you can't do all of that and control the zones. Like, he doesn't want to throw meatballs. He wants to live on the outer thirds, inner third, upper third, lower third. Like, he wants to dominate the outside edges of the strike zone. And to be able to do that, you got to consistently be able to kick it up, ball out of the glove on time, hitting the ground at the right time, and the release point has to be on point with all these pitches. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, you got to, it's called strikes on the fastball and more swings on the fastball. That, for me, tonight is what you need to look for. He's getting those 2 things. He will have more chase percentage, which is what everybody's yelling and screaming about, right? The first time we heard about this guy was how great his stuff is. Mm-hmm. Like, it's off the charts. He's going to stuff you to death. Well, he's got to have fastball command to do it. If he doesn't, a big league hitter will go, you're not getting me out with the split finger because I'm going to look for it. You're not getting me out with the slider because I'm going to look for it. You ain't getting me out with any other secondary thing because I'm going to be looking for it, because you can't throw the good old number 1 for strikes and make them quality strikes most of the time. So I think they're at that point now. He's healthy. He's seen bad a lot. Mm-hmm. So there's a sample size of now Petey can walk up to him and go, this ain't good. We're fixing that. So I think, he won't eliminate that stuff, but they'll try and calm it down just so it's repeatable, and he'll be able to command the fastball a little bit better. So I don't think they're there yet with again, and it gets back to that thing. It's not his fault that they haven't, brought in some new arms and some different attitude out of the pen. It's not his fault.
No,
he wants to start. I think they want him to start. Why not let him try?
I think, now we get into the conversation about that might be what this front office, and this is where I wanted to go with this. That might be what they want. But if you get a whole new set of eyes in here, a fresh set of eyes in here, which let's face it, we've talked about it for a while.
Sure.
It's certainly not in the realm of possibility. I wonder then where that goes.
Tough, right? Like, you can't change everything.
I guess.
They paid this guy to start, I'm assuming, because they know what they don't have in years to come. That's why they gave him the years they gave him. And, like, they got so many things to correct in the offseason that how is that one of them too? Like,
that's a fair point. But
give him something to build off of so he can gain some momentum going into 2025 and say, here's the ball, take it every 5 days, command stuff, and then worry about everything else, right? I think they're at worry about everything else. Now, I think your point is fair, though, with the front office and how it's going to look to other people. Mm-hmm. It looks one way to me and you, and obviously it doesn't look that way to those guys. So what if a whole set of different eyes come in there and they're looking at it either the same way we're looking at it or some way other way, and they have to change everything up. So,
yeah, it's when you sit down and make that list of things that are going to need to be done in the offseason, it's quite the shopping list.
Jeff, I don't think you can teach a dude stuff, but I do think you can teach a guy command.
Yeah,
that's where they're at with Yariel. He's got stuff. He's got good feel. He can read bats. He understands how to get a lefty out. Now it's just refining command, and that's where Pete Walker comes in. So I think, for me anyway, with who I've talked to, I think that's sort of where they're at, is that part of, we've seen you, we don't really like that. We're going to calm that down a little. We're not going to take away who you are, but we're going to calm it down a little just so you give the bullpen a little bit of a break. That's a lot of it too, right? Is you just don't want to abuse this thing where he's throwing 50, 60 pitches in 2 1/3. Like, you just can't do that anymore. So I think they've, at least in their last bullpen, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and Bowden Francis will be available, obviously.
And he's been better. He's attacking with a fastball. You do that, for whatever reason, that thing's sneaky and they can't pick it up. Continue to do that and then sprinkle in the other stuff. Bowden's a big leaguer. I think he's in the best role he can be in, too, for me anyway. Sort of that hybrid thing, right? Mm-hmm. Fill in the blanks when a dude don't get it done. I think that's where they like him. They like him there.
And he seems to have everything we read and everything we hear and everything we see from him. He seems to have kind of fit into that role comfortably.
I'm not sure, like, a second time through, the meat of the order is who Bowden is, right? It's that 10, 11, 12 batter, like, right, depending on who the 10, 11, 12 is, right? It's right in there somewhere. How many innings can you give me with 10 or 11 batters? So at least, again, the people that I've talked to, I think that the sweet spot is Yariel starting. Bowden is the hybrid, can bring him in whenever we bring him in. He's comfortable coming in. They'd like him to come in with a clean inning, but if they don't, he's okay with that because of the sneaky heater and get a lefty out. Like, he feels confident doing that, which I think is half the battle.
7:10 will be the first pitch tonight from Fenway Park as the Jays and the Red Sox play the rubber match of their 3-game series. Cutter Crawford on the mound for the Red Sox, Yariel Rodriguez for the Blue Jays. The Jays will start a 4-game series against the New York Yankees.
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole
91 ain't playing. You see 91?
I saw 91.
92, 93.
Did they say, I have not, are they still listing him as a possible starter on Sunday? Or are they going to?
91, that don't worry you. If you were a Yankee, seeing 91, 92, 93 and getting hammered the way, I'd be real careful with him.
That would worry me.
Yeah.
I mean, and the good thing for the Yankees is they've got a sizable enough lead that you could probably pull the reins in on Garrett Cole a little bit, because he got that lead without Garrett Cole. So you've got a certain amount of freedom to maybe pull the reins in a little bit and be a little more careful.
Communication's key with a guy like that, I would think.
But anyhow, the Astros are in town for a series. So Astros got it going on right now.
They found something. They're drinking something in the water down there.
I think you and Caleb both, when we were talking the other day, you hit the nail on the head. Guys in that locker room are looking around and going, "Oh, I want a World Series with you. Oh, I want a World Series." I think there is something to be said for that. I think that I think they know when. Some teams know when to panic. I think you got to know when not to panic.
Yeah, I think
the Astros know when not.
I think their pitching coach has been really good. I think they've made adjustments with who they've had to make them with to give the lineup a chance to smother teams, which is what they're doing.
Speaking of Caleb Joseph, he will join us in studio in the next hour. And when we come back, David Samson, host of Nothing Personal, the podcast, joins us. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. 7:10 is the first pitch tonight from Fenway Park. Pack.
You know, I've never signed my name under the Green Monster. Was there 3 different times?
Yeah, why? Yeah, that's the thing.
That's a great question. I'm a little upset at myself about that.
You've been there 3 times. You never signed your name inside.
3 different times. So 3 different series. So
yeah, you go in the
either
wall
3 or
and
4
sign
games. Yeah,
I've
actually been in the.
I've gone in there and signed my name.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
You ruined it. That's pretty cool. I should have. I mean, because you see all these Blue Jays going there, and I'm like, man. My wife talks about going. It's like, what's wrong with you, Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I the only person that just went in there and not signed it?
You are you
probably.
The romance of the game gets lost on you.
I think so too.
I think it does. You are a cold, hard capitalist when it comes to baseball. Let's bring in David Samson, another cold, hard capitalist, former MLB executive, host of Nothing Personal.
Oh.
David, hey, I got something that's really gonna. You're probably gonna tell me I'm an idiot.
Mm.
So I like leading with that because it's well, yeah.
I'll do it for
you have.
Kevin is for not signing his name in Fenway
It's crazy,
Park
right?
on the wall.
It's crazy that I have not done that. I'm very disappointed
This
in
guy
myself.
does not see the romance in the game, man.
Maybe not that part of it. That I'm a little upset.
How many career home runs have you hit?
6.
Okay, see, he didn't, but he doesn't know how many he hit in the minors.
No, yeah, 272 in the minors. Oh yeah, but
okay. Anyhow, so I got
nobody
this,
cares.
I got this idea. I actually bounced this off Jason Stark a year ago, and he said I was an idiot. But there's an article on ESPN site by Alden Gonzalez about the tragic technology that teams are using now, where it's basically a robot that can mimic a pitcher's delivery, and teams are now using it between innings, and and the pitchers are complaining because, as we all know, offense is out of control in baseball right now. But a lot of the pitchers are complaining about this, and we had Jason on earlier this week, and we were talking about the lack of offense and how pitching technology is so far ahead of hitting. In F1, they put a cap on how much money you can spend on technology. And if you go over that, they whack you with a big gut-busting fine. Am I onto something here with baseball? Hey, everybody's complaining there's too much technology. We're losing this, we're losing that. Why not tell teams, this is how much you can spend on R&D. You could, however you want to use it, go ahead. If you go over it, and we need to account for it, if you go over it, you lose the draft pick, or we're going to whack you with a $1.5 million fine. I'm way off base, aren't I?
Well, it's just that you can't get 23 votes to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine idea, but the reason I'm not going to call you an idiot, I think that's an unfortunate term. But what I would say is that you may not be realistic in terms of how these rule changes could happen. And the reason is that the owners all believe that their money is being well spent and better spent and smarter spent than their competitors, because they all think that they're all idiots, which is funny, and they're not. So each team is smart in its own way, and the commissioner's not going to get involved in that because he can't get the votes to pass it.
Is this a big deal? Like, people talk about it a lot, and lack of offense. Like, is that a big deal? Because I like watching. I enjoy baseball the way it is now, to be honest. Would I like to see a few more home runs?
Absolutely.
Maybe, but I kind of like the game the way it is.
Do you know how much video Vladimir Guerrero Sr. studied?
0.
Zero.
0.
Did he even know where the video room
pitching
was, would be my question.
The pitching machines that we had for Vladimir, it was these thump, and it would go in and it would be straight, and you'd set it at 85 or 90 or 95, who cares? And he'd, be in the cage from time to time. Yeah. It's not about that. I think that the reason offense is down, pitchers are using sticky stuff. There's movement, there's velocity in a way that did not exist before, and hitting a baseball is the hardest thing anyway. So pitching is way ahead of the hitting in terms of both not following the rules and in terms of going until you blow out. Mm-hmm. Picture this. If you, Kevin, had the choice where you could hit home runs, but you knew that there was a good chance you were going to blow out because of the way you were swinging, but you got paid for home runs, would you swing that way to get the home runs?
Absolutely.
100%. Mm-hmm. But there is nothing like that for hitting. There is something like that for pitching. They pretend it's launch angle and velocity and all that crap and garbage. No, the cheat code is velocity for pitching that leads to blowouts. There is no cheat code for hitting.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, you're talking about Diaz and the suspension and how I would think how Major League Baseball is going to correct that. David, I would think you get in their pocket enough that will go away, right? It's the obvious. If I can see it, you probably got too much on it. It's putting a lot on the umpire's plate to just sort of, say that's we're going to fine you, we're going to kick you out of the game, those kind of things. But as a hitter, David, I can level out my swing still. Like, I understand it's all of these. The pitchers are way better than the hitters have ever been. Are they? Or is it just what you just said? They're not paying them anymore to hit a line drive the other way. They're just not doing it. They can still do it. We've seen them do it. I saw George Springer hit a line drive to right field for a homer last night. He can do it. David, that's the thing, right? It's a rock and a hard place here, whether it's because I'm assuming it's cheaper if they continue to try and do it this way than to have a bunch of guys who know how to hit, working counts, and you have to pay 7 or 8 guys instead of 1 or 2 guys. So it's cheaper that way, no?
I thought you just said working counts. I was trying to remember if that's still a thing in baseball.
Yeah,
I thought taking a strike when you're down a run in the 9th inning, I must be old-fashioned and crazy, but I used to think that when you needed a base runner 3-0, make them throw a strike after they've thrown 8 straight balls. But what do I know?
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion, and I made this when I was a president of a team, and I couldn't get a vote, but I still make it on Nothing Personal, and now I'm going to make it with you. I want to change the rules of arbitration. I want to take money away from hitters who strike out. I want to add money to hitters who use the gaps, who get extra base hits. I want to take away money from pitchers, more money, even more than they get taken away when they're injured, because I don't want pitchers throwing 100 when they can't. It's all about what pays in arbitration. And right now, power pays in arbitration, saves pay in arbitration, strikeouts for pitchers pay in arbitration. I think we got to change that.
Yeah, I think the first thing I thought of was good luck. Like you mentioned, you didn't get a vote. Like it sounds simple enough. It's like the sticky stuff. If you find them, you get in their wallet enough, they're going to stop doing it, right? I mean, it's real simple. You can't walk out there like Diaz did and just go, I don't know. Well, yeah, you do. I can see it. Like, it's real simple. It's cut and dry. If you get in their pocket enough, they will stop doing it. It's to your point. I just think it's simpler to have, like, the Rays to compete, having a couple of guys. I can just remember, and I tell this to Jeff when I was in spring training, you remember the Rays had the cages in the infield, and they were making everybody hit the ball over the cage in the infield? Not a line drive, a ball over the cage. I just never will forget that, because it's easier to teach a guy that way and cheaper to do it that way. So I just don't think there's an easy answer.
And arbitration.
So one of the things.
Go ahead, David.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying one of the things that we focus on is with the sticky stuff. Hitters actually want pitchers to have a little bit of grip because they don't want to get beamed with 100. But when it's too sticky and there's too much sunscreen in the resin and et cetera, that then gives a spin to the ball and movement that hitters aren't used to seeing, and therefore they can't put the bat where they expect the ball to be because the ball is somewhere else because of the movement, because of the sticky stuff, which is why baseball is trying to invent sticky stuff that everyone can use, but they haven't been able to do it yet.
You know, you mentioned something about arbitration. It's something I've always wondered about, and I've talked to people about it, and I kind of get a shrug, and some people, you know, basically, why are you asking that? But there's so much in this. There's so many analytics in this game now. There's so many ways to judge a player. Yet when we go to arbitration, we're using the same stuff they've used since arbitration came in. Who does that benefit? Like, would owners prefer, like you made that point, would owners prefer a more detailed analysis of a hitter's skills or a pitcher's skills, or would players and pitchers prefer it? Like, would it favor one side over the other? Because it does seem it's kind of a little bit of an anachronism, is it not?
So the arbitration process is about comps. And so the only thing that would benefit players or owners is if you change who can be used as comps and how comps can be used. And by that, I mean salaries paid to players previously in the arbitration program with like and similar statistics and experience. And so the league, the team comes up with comps, then the union comes up with comps. Sometimes they come up with the same players because the comps are who the comps are. And then you're deciding, how do you judge where the current player should be paid? And my view of arbitration is not that it's bad for the player or bad for the owner. I believe the reason why arbitration, we should get rid of it, is because what is used to decide what is the scale of payment is producing bad baseball. So if we're not going to change the rules, which we've talked about, we can't, why not get rid of the whole process and make everybody a free agent every year? And you'll laugh at me, but that was another suggestion I made. And I got more votes than one, but not quite 23.
Charlie O'Finley. You know the story about Charlie O'Finley when he owned the Oakland Athletics? Every contract's a one-year contract.
Why is that so bad? And I don't want to necessarily, I understand where people viewed him negatively in some respects, but why not young players? Think about the number of players pre-arbitration. Forget this pool, which was just eyewash for young players. Imagine if you had to pay a young player his market value. That would be a huge benefit for a good young player, but it comes at the sacrifice of members of the union who are older players who are being paid for what they did, not what they're doing.
It's hard to have a great season every season, David. I think that's the point that players are trying to make. It's very, very hard. Yeah, good luck with that.
Welcome to football.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, you got to earn it, right? The numbers speak for themselves. We'll move on a little bit. Orelvis Martinez was suspended for PEDs. And I want to ask about trust from a front office. How does a young kid gain the trust of a front office after going through what Orelvis is going through?
You don't. It's done. And they'll tell you it's not. And they'll tell you everything's fine. You'll read the statement that says it was fertility. He had no idea. I would just like to tell you how much time we spend with players, Dominican players, Venezuelan players, Texan players, and Canadian players. We explain to them, don't take an Advil without telling us. And players listen. The players who don't are players who, like with their parents, they don't want their parents to know what they're doing. I'm just not buying the excuse. And maybe it's because I was in management for so long and I've heard them all, but they're all full of it. These players, their body is how they make their living. So they know exactly what they're taking and they know exactly what the risk is. And when they get caught, they get caught. Most of them don't get caught, which is why they all keep doing it.
Dana Brown came out on MLB Network and the other day and was talking about the Astros and was very bold and said, the Astros had a little bit of a winning streak. We're proceeding as if we want to win the division. We're going to go all in and try to get this thing. There's a lot of pressure here on Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, obviously, to I don't know, not necessarily send a message to fans, but people want to know what the hell's up. Basically, are you guys going to go for it this year? Are you going to look for a rebuild? You're going to retool, whatever you're going to call it. Is there a danger when a front office, I think there's a danger when a front office is too open with fans. I don't know how you feel, but I've always kind of operated under the assumption that transparency is great and everything, but I'm not certain it's great for a front office to be, quote unquote, transparent with people.
We would call it manipulative transparency. So we were only transparent when we wanted to be about things we wanted to be transparent about that would accrue to the benefit of our front office or what we were trying to do, whether it was in a trade or a signing or anything we were doing where we would use the media to try to both give and get information. And the Blue Jays are in a very tough position. People are calling for his job. People are wondering what the Blue Jays should do. And I love your show and I love your fans and I love Toronto. And I'm the one who, along with many who chose Toronto, predicted they'd win the division. I'm sorry to tell you that I got it wrong. And I do not see a path for Toronto's season to turn around the way the Cardinals sort of have and the Astros really have. I just don't see that path in the American League East. I don't see that path with this team. And it is up to the Blue Jays to decide what to do next. And here's the hard part. Rogers could easily not permit smart baseball moves and demand that there are ads made and that they're going to be buyers, if you will. And I get why they'd want to chase because they're so frustrated, but I do not believe it's a smart move for them to buy. I don't think the team has earned the right for that clubhouse to get better. And I think that it will hurt them going forward. But as a corporate owner, I understand the frustration they may feel.
David, does a front office pay attention to chemistry in a clubhouse?
Boy, every winning team we had, there were players who hated each other, including our World Series winning team. They hated each other. Some of them didn't like the manager. Have you ever been on a team where 25 guys all liked each other and hung out and everything was hunky-dory? Have you ever been in an office where you like everyone in your office?
Nope.
Or a classroom where you like all of your classmates? Absolutely. I've never seen that. I mean, you two might not even like each other.
Oh, that's
right.
Well, that is true. There is.
You nailed that.
My point is, it's so talked about all the time.
It is.
And we don't sit in the front office and say, hey, nobody likes Hanley. We're not going to win any games. It never comes up.
Okay, changing it a little bit. Just heard Vladdy come out and say he's in love with the Yankees again.
He did not say that.
Why do you think? Wait,
He didn't say he's in love.
He basically has found out that Rizzo can't play first anymore for the Yankees. He's thinking to himself, boy, that'd be a nice team to go play for. I'm young. I mean, I got somebody protecting me, and that dude can play center, and he's probably going to hit 70 homers this year. I just go out there and be Vladdy. So why do you think all of a sudden he's having this conversation?
I think that finally he listened to his agent.
Yeah.
And finally he realized that he was moronic to have said what he said before. There's only 30 people who can pay your free agent salary. 30. That's it. And why would you ever disparage one of them? Then you're down to 29. It's idiocy. So finally he said, I spoke to my dad and we've taken care of issues. I've spoken to Vladimir 1,000 times. He would never get in the way of anyone signing with the Yankees. It's total horse hockey. So Vladimir decided he wanted everyone to know. But again, if you're Brian Cashman, I'm not trading a player because he doesn't like being on my team. And I'm not trading for a player because I think he's going to like being on my team. I'm trading players and acquiring players that I think will help us win more games.
Yeah.
David, really good of you to join us today, man. Terrific insight.
Awesome
Thanks as
stuff.
always.
You're
Be
the
well,
best, buddy.
Thanks for not calling me an idiot. I appreciate it. I'll let Parker do that, and I'm sure he will. We've still got 45 minutes
you
left.
love each other.
I know. Take care. Thanks, David.
See you, buddy.
David Samson, host of Nothing Personal, the podcast.
Oh, boy.
We do get along pretty well.
Yeah, we do.
There are stresses in the relationship. Every relationship has stresses and strains.
Every once in a while, you'll say some stuff that is mind-boggling.
It seems to me that in our relationship, the point of fracture is generally you refusing to admit that I'm right 90% of the time. That seems to be that's the pressure point.
You're right 90% of the time.
So,
Yeah, you read that X last night. It was like, boy, Barker has never been more wrong in his entire life. That's what you said.
No.
Oh man, it's
I didn't throw it.
How do you feel, Kev? Good luck sleeping tonight. It's like,
I did not say that.
yeah, I still think it's dumb.
Maybe I shouldn't come on the
I
post
gotta be
game.
honest
Maybe
with
I
you.
shouldn't come on the have come on the post game show and said, "Are you ready to apologize for John Schneider?"
Spencer
John
Horwitz.
Schneider.
If I'd have told you in spring training when I was down there, dodging the heat, trying to talk to you, that Spencer Horwitz would be hitting second for your Toronto Blue Jays June, whatever the day is, you'd have called me crazy.
No, I would not have.
You would have called me crazy.
No.
Who normally hits in the 2-hole for a baseball team that's trying to win a World Series? Just say it out loud. I want to hear you say it.
The best hitter on the team.
There it is. Is that Spencer Horwitz all of a sudden?
Right now? Maybe.
Oh,
Him or Vladdy.
man. You said it with a straight face, too.
No, right now. Right now. This day, June.
Yeah, working walks is not the best hitter
26th.
on the team. I mean, he does what he's supposed to do. And you understand the theory because they're basically telling you that they don't feel like Bo can get on base enough for when Vladdy comes up. That's basically what they're telling you. And they'd rather have Horwitz hitting in front of Vladdy because they think Horwitz got a better chance to ride the hot hand of Vladdy. But is that right?
I mean, worked last night. 9-4, the Blue Jays won. My Blue Jays last night, 9-4 winners over the Boston Red Sox. And they're going to win. They might win the series. You know what? If they win tonight, they win the series. Did you know that?
That's why you're a Hall of Famer.
We just kind of touched on that whole Vladdy to Yankees thing. I love
He's
what
in love with
David
the Yankees
said.
all of a sudden.
I'll
Talk to his dad. Dad says, okay.
Junior, you may want to.
Hey. Yeah, they pay
Junior.
a lot over there. You might want to keep your
Anthony
mouth
Rizzo,
shut.
Anthony Rizzo's career is basically over. You may want to shut your mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure the agent did some poking around and probably thought, well, they probably aren't going to sign Soto to $1 bazillion. There's going to be a window open there for some good players
People need
to maybe show up.
People need to realize that there are tampering rules in place. There are tampering rules in place, but there's like a bazillion people working for every major league team. If you don't think that Yankees khaki ran into a Blue Jays khaki at some point and said,
Yeah,
hey, I mean, it's just the way it is. Nothing's a secret. Nothing is a secret in baseball.
No.
I do tell you though, I watched Vladdy hit at Fenway Park Vladdy Jr. hit at Fenway Park. And
Why do you think that is?
you know what's weird? Honestly, I don't. His dad, I saw Vladdy Sr. take batting practice at Fenway Park, and he had one round of BP. He had every ball out of the park over the sign, every ball. I don't know if it's something about his swing. I have no idea what it is, but it's like you watch him at Fenway. Don't you get the sense when you watch him at Fenway Park, he's just more confident?
I think his swing for me looks easier. At the Rogers Center, sometimes he thinks he's getting balls that ain't going nowhere.
Is that an
He swing
example?
harder.
Because people say there's an example where sometimes the Green Monster will actually kind of, if you're a right-handed hitter.
You were just.
I don't know. But
he
he wears them out.
I took batting practice. I hit a home run over Green Monster, Jeff. You didn't know that?
You're a lefty.
In a game. Off of Beckett.
Yeah, I
Give me a
know.
fastball right down the middle.
Yeah, I know.
Deposited that thing over the Green Monster.
Yeah, but
it's
it
a
didn't
lot
go
of
out of the park.
It's over it. Well over it.
It didn't go out of the park.
You go back and look at the video.
Did it land on the top of the parking
I'm
lot?
sure it broke some windows. Absolutely. The point is that's the feeling, is when you go in there, you don't have to do a ton. If you're quiet with that lower half, just look how fluid that thing looks. I said calibrating last night. After he fouled the sinker off, you could tell. Just a little bit, the calibration's a little bit different.
Something you talk about, too, his finish.
He's got a little uppercut in his finish now, which is not Vladdy. Like it's normal. It's normally that steep path, and it's by your face, and it's not so much long to it or short to it and long through it. It's more of that, like it's got a little alligator to it, right? Where he'll go by his face, it's short and quick, and it's sort of around the baseball. Now he's just sort of with that top hand, he's getting through it with that little uppercut in his finish. And I think he's very confident. When you're seeing the ball, you're confident, you're quiet, you're seeing the ball longer, you're not chasing stupid pitches. I mean, somebody just needs to say, dude, stop doing it. Like, you're too good. You see when you get a good pitch to hit? Look, nobody can do that. Just think if you stop swinging. I know it's easier said than done. But man,
I know what you're saying.
Plate awareness is a problem. That was why I didn't spend 15 years in big leagues. It wasn't anything else. It's plate awareness. I chased things I should not have chased. Who's that sound like?
Yeah.
Vladdy gets himself out. It's getting himself out. A lot of the times it's not the pitcher getting him out. He gets himself out. How do you fix that? A little. You don't even have to fix it a ton. Just a little to where he refines that, hones in on some little spot. It's because he's moved off the plate a little bit. When you move off the plate, what's the plate do? It follows you.
Follows you.
Yeah, when it follows you, you think, okay, that thing's a little closer to me than it actually is, and I have to swing at the ball that's in there. It's just, man, if he cannot swing at that, you can stop. Then you won't have to yell and scream at me about George Springer not hitting. He can go out there and play all the defense he wants.
You're not going to let that go.
I think it's funny.
I just think it's
You
know what? I just figured it was time that somebody stand up and defend George
Yeah.
Springer.
How's it feel?
It felt good.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like a better human being, to be honest. It was time that somebody did
Took
that.
one DM from David to make you feel like a better person.
And I just felt, I'm going to rally around George because
Till he goes 0 for 4 with three
you know what?
punches and leaves the bases
People
loaded.
are
And old Blair is going to come on that Jays Talk tonight when it ain't a winning edition, and it's because of one guy. And go, way to earn that money, big fella.
no,
You're not going to say that?
No, I have never said that. No, I have never. You know me. I would never say a player is overpaid. No, never. You know that.
Okay.
You're the one that comes on and complains about the contract. I'm the one that says you're paid for what you did. And I will never rip on a player for making a ton of money because somebody else decided to pay him that much.
I'm not ripping him either. I'm just saying when you do make that amount of money, it's okay to criticize a guy for not getting it done because he's making a lot of money.
Again, you're paid for what you did. You're paid for what you did.
And still, until you got 2.5 years left of it. That's...
You know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of this.
How does it feel to be wrong?
I'm tired of this. I want to bring.
That's supposed to be the 10% of the time you're wrong.
I'm tired of this. I want to bring Caleb Joseph in. He's going to join us next. Caleb Joseph, our Blue Jays.
Is he
Central
always
analyst. I don't know. We'll find out. Caleb Joseph joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 Fan. Sportsnet, very pleased to be joined by...
But not really. Not really. He's yelling at me. He yelled at me out there when I was trying to get a cup of water.
Well, very pleased to be joined by our Blue Jay Central analyst, Caleb Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph was going to warm up for his show tonight by discussing chemistry with us. I understand it's a favorite topic of yours.
It's wonderful, he said.
Barker told me to ask.
He believes in it, he said.
Is chemistry?
It's everything a team needs is chemistry. You got my back, I got yours.
How important is
We'll win 105 games.
You know, why don't you just... You ask
That's the question you wanted to ask. No. It's chemistry. How
Okay,
important
you
is
ask.
it?
You ask.
And when you lose it, what's it do to your team? There you go. Bing, bang,
Yeah,
boom.
yeah.
Answer the question.
Look, I think the better word is respect. So if you respect the guy in the room, and I think that goes hand in hand with chemistry. And I don't think that you have to love each other and do this, but if you're going to not like me, but be on first base and score on a double, I'll respect you. And that's the chemistry I think that I'm kind of talking about is everybody pulling on the same rope that truly will do whatever it takes for their teammate to win. Not, I like you because you're a cool guy. Not like that. That's impossible, as we just heard. I agree, too. It's impossible.
Have you played on a team that was where they're, I mean, all kidding aside, where guys really genuinely, most of them liked each other? Have you played on a team like that?
I really have. I've probably, out of the 8 major league teams that I've played on, I would say at least 4 of them, everybody was, there wasn't a real like, hey, there's a riff here and watch out for that.
Were they good teams?
Yeah.
All 4 of them.
No. But I will say there was a team that I played on that was not the closest, but they had guys that played hard for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that kind of gave me an element of, okay, maybe it's not just we all get along, but maybe we respect each other so much that I'm going to do something for that guy, even though I don't really like him that much, because you're playing for the name on the front.
Yeah, like Barker's
right?
point, Barker made one of the first things you told me when you started doing this. We had a discussion about teammates and blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know what makes a good teammate? Run the bases well.
Mm-hmm.
Run the bases makes a good
Score on a
teammate.
ball you shouldn't.
Stuff like if you make a first pitch out and your buddy behind you is just going to wear it, that next time that you're hitting behind him and he makes a first pitch out, you don't swing at the first pitch. Little unselfish things like that. When you're at first base and there's a chopper in the 6 hole and the shortstop dives, haul rear to second base and make it a safe play so that I get credited with a hit. And I have been on teams where, that you could question some effort at times because maybe they just weren't mentally engaged.
I've never really played with the elite players, but I would assume that if those guys are not being elite, it sort of trickles down to everybody else not being in a good mood. Yeah.
No question. Because as they go, you go.
Absolutely.
And what happens is, as a non-star, you feel the pressure to then produce. And no offense, but the non-stars are non-stars for a reason. And it's hard to ask 7, 8, 6, 9 in the lineup to be dudes and be guys when your big boys aren't. And so when they're going, everything seems to go well. And when they're not, and when they're not, it seems to be tense.
But you just had to get George Springer in there, didn't you?
I just picking on me because I've been hard on George today. Because he basically said it's okay for me just to play defense.
No, that's not what he said. He said that to paraphrase.
The least I can do is play defense.
To paraphrase, he understands he's scuffling at the plate, so I got to do whatever I can do to help the team. Like, here's where I am with this, Caleb. This is the thing. George is getting a lot of money. George is underperforming. That contract runs for 2 more years. They might buy him out at some point halfway through next year or something like that. But, I mean, we can't just...
He's hitting 5th, Jeff.
You can't hammer on George Springer all the time.
No, I'm not hammering on him.
My point is this.
No.
Catch the ball, play good defense. Your money's your money's your money's your money. I don't blame you for making that money. But, just stick him 8th in the lineup.
They will
take
never
the good
do that.
Defense and away we go.
They will never hit him. That's the point.
I think that's where I could handle it, is if it continues. And he had a good game last night, got some results. And I love the home run to right center field.
Direction with the shoulders, good, man.
And I think with George, it's out in front with direction. I love what Joe said during the telecast out in front. And just remember, when you have that bat angled and the handle is in front of the barrel, that creates the direction. And so when you're getting tied up and the barrel is beating the handle of the bat, that's when you get these weak rollovers, and you might hit him on the barrel, but the direction's so bad. But he had some really nice at-bats, and he got some results. He has hit some balls hard. But I think where the fan base is at is you can swallow it if he's playing really good defense and he's hitting 8th or 9th. But when you see it right in the middle of the order, that's where everybody panics and freaks out. And I go back to this saying that I was told, and I think I've said this before, don't let a star fall on you. And I had that told to me, and it took me a minute to figure that out. The Angels had to deal with this with Albert Pujols, a really good player under a huge contract on the decline. And
Detroit, Miguel Cabrera.
Exactly. These types of decisions become really, really tough because you look at the back of the ball card, he's got an established career. He's done a lot of things in the game, and especially when you look at experience and the dollar signs behind the contract, it's hard for other people to go up and say stuff to this guy. Who's going to say, "Hey, Albert, it's not going very well. Do you mind hitting 8th?" Nobody's going to say that, right? And I'm not saying George's in the same category as Albert, but I think it rings true.
It's interesting, though, because hearing you say that, I remember when we had A.J. Hinch on in Miguel Cabrera's last year, and Miguel Cabrera did go to A.J. Hinch and say,
do what you got to.
Do what you got to do. Like, just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And that's I remember being a good teammate.
But I remember AJ saying that, that gives you as a manager, I suck, so I'm out of the lineup. That is a great teammate. Why don't you put him in? Let him make some money. But no, it's an interesting point because I remember AJ talking about that. Just when I know that, it just makes it easier. It makes it easier for me to do what I got to do.
10th and 5th, like it's sooner or later. I mean, he had a really good night last night, and hopefully that carries over. It's just consistently, if you hit 5th,
you better drive some runs in.
You got to do something more than play good defense.
And especially
it's the reality of life.
Especially if Vladdy is getting on base and you sandwich somebody in there in between him and Vladdy that are getting on base. You better be thumping the ball and driving some runs.
I like how you set that up for me. Do you like where they're hitting Bo? I don't. Do you?
I do. The only reason I don't love that he could potentially swing at a first pitch slider and be out. I loved his last 2 or 3 at-bats, and I thought that he went from the leg kick into his kind of 2-strike approach, which then out of nowhere he saw the ball. And I said it before on Blue Jays Central that I like him in the leadoff spot if he picks one zone and one speed early in the count, and that's it, and just get super refined. I had a coach one time tell me that, the first 2 strikes are yours. The third is a team strike. Right. And we just see Bo, he at times he looks like he's just swinging to swing. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. His aggression, he has to be aggressive, but get aggressive in one side of the plate at one speed until you get to 2 strikes. When he's aggressive like that, it tells me that he doesn't trust where he's at. So go back. I love that he made the adjustment, went to the 2-strike approach, and it looked like he saw the ball. Now, him at the leadoff spot, I love that because if he does make a first pitch out, Vladdy doesn't feel the heat right behind him to maybe take a pitch or get deep into a count because you don't want to make 2 outs in 2 pitches or whatever. So who do you sandwich in between there? Spencer Horwitz, who is really good at seeing. And if he swings, it's going to be something that he's probably looking for in an area that he can drive. And he might not get a hit every time, but he's going to have a great approach, more than likely going to take it deep, which then sets Vladdy up for a nice
because
inning.
I know I heard you you say last night you don't mind having Bo up there, provided there's somebody between him and Vladdy, and that's what you were getting.
I'd rather have Bo hitting behind him than in the leadoff spot. Like him leading off makes no sense.
I mean,
it just really doesn't. I understand the Horwitz thing. That makes total sense. Bo leading off, I'm not even sure Bo likes leading off. You got to be married to it if you're going to be good.
That's true.
No,
if George was doing George things, we have a 1-2 at Horwitz, Bo behind him.
Jeff is in that take up for George day, so you got to be careful about how you Can I ask now? What are you going to ask?
I wasn't going to ask anything.
Oh, I want to ask about Yariel Rodriguez.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
Can he, from one start to the other, use more fastballs and throw more fastballs where he wants them to go with a more refined mechanics? they're going to calm down the start and stop thing. They're not going to eliminate it, but they're going to calm it down. Do you think, in your experience, from a pitcher that's sort of done some things, from one start to the other, who makes adjustments, does it work that next start is my question.
Did it work for Kikuchi?
That's a great question. Did it?
So it's like you said, I think it's a process. I think first and foremost, he's got to get to one arm angle. And I would prefer him get to one arm angle and then go to the starting and stopping. You got to remember, he's coming from the MPB, and over there, guys are nibblers. And what I mean by that is they're all around the strike zone. They're really afraid to throw pitches in the middle of the zone. Some of the Japanese pitchers that I caught, they had the best control at throwing a pitch 1 inch outside. And so he's been playing in that league for a long time. And they have to use a lot of trickery because they don't have Shohei Ohtani and Yu Darvish type of stuff. So they're using a lot of trickery. Well, the Blue Jays signed him not because he's a good magician, but because his stuff is really good. And so you want to let a player that's coming over kind of go through the process of not necessarily failing, but let them do it their way and then present your ideas to them. And so I feel like, first and foremost, if he can get to one arm angle, he's going to be in a way better position to repeat that. I love his stuff. I think the stuff is way better than what it's playing at right now because of all this other magician-like stuff that he's trying to trick guys. And if I'm a catcher, I'm telling him, hey, man, your stuff is really, really good. Don't worry about having to mess with somebody's timing. Don't worry about dropping down and creating a sweeper-like action. Give me the fastball that has a little bit of cut on it. Give me a downer slider, cutter-ish type action where you're over the ball, and give me a little 12-6 downer. And I promise you I'll work with that. Don't do anything else. But it takes some assertiveness from a catcher to go out there and make a guy believe that he doesn't need the other stuff. And sometimes that takes time.
Yeah, I remember when Pedro Martinez was establishing himself with the Expos, and then you saw him with the Boston Red Sox. And Pedro would drop down, but he wouldn't do it on every, it would be maybe once or twice a game. He knew a certain guy was susceptible to it. Or, he pitched a playoff game in Cleveland where he was injured and he basically threw three quarters the whole night. Like Pedro could do that. But that's different than what you're talking about with the Ariel Rodriguez.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with dropping down every now and then.
Right.
But not 4 different arm slots.
And for me, that's
pitches.
after you've mastered up top.
Okay.
And mastered the location of these pitches up top. Because I think his stuff, personally, what I see is super late action. And I love the guys that have good elite stuff with super late action, because it's hard to recognize as a hitter. I mean, look at Tanner Houck. Like, that's super late action and crossfire and all that stuff. But if I'm a catcher, I'm pumping him with confidence, saying, hey, your natural arm angle is perfect. Don't worry about starting, stopping, all this other stuff. But it's going to take a minute. And I don't see it happening even this year, to be honest with you. I see this as an off-season thing and let this thing play out.
Basically,
especially coming off an injury, right?
Yeah.
I think they'd be if he didn't get hurt, I think right around now would be the time where he'd be saying, okay, what do you got for me? Let's come up with some stuff. I think Kikuchi's a perfect example. Came over here with an idea of how he thought he should pitch and wants to pitch, and then Pete Walker gets involved and transforms him how only I think Pete Walker can do. He's by far the best. Like, he's unbelievable. Like, I had a bunch of them. I had some really good ones. I had Dave Wallace, who had Pedro Martinez. He was outstanding. But Pete Walker you talk about magician. He's pulling rabbits out of hats year in, year out for the Toronto Blue Jays.
What's harder for a pitcher, to throw more of one pitch or do what you just mentioned?
Well,
because he's like I think he throws his fastball less than 40% of the time,
right,
which is not a ton, right?
And again, that's him not believing that it is as good as it is. And I would be saying, hey,
keep pushing it.
Yes, I'd go in there and I'd say, hey, not that you're going to establish. It all depends on the report, right, and your matchups. But I just believe that if you can get a guy confident with that, because that fastball's in the natural arm position, and then all the other ones are going to come off of it, you essentially could get to 50-50 in terms of the usage, because I think he's going to be more in the 50-50 range. But you can't have a guy dropping down with a sweeper action and then expect him in a big situation to locate a heater like at the top or at the bottom, wherever you want it.
Eight lefties tonight, too.
It's
not going to be easy to do.
It's not. And see, this is where with all the 8 lefties, like I'd be looking third in and just running that cutter in and trying to establish that thing in. But
strike one and strike three. That's
feeling,
it right there. Action. Quicker you get action, the better off you are.
And not be afraid of contact. A lot of the guys that I see that come over from Japan, they're almost afraid of contact. I probably had 6 or 7 of them over my career, and they're afraid to throw the ball in the zone early. They're for some reason because they're so accustomed to throwing balls on the edges. So I'd try and get him in the zone ASAP, get him ahead, then start nibbling, and as soon as he gets back to an even count, get him right back on the plate.
How do you think the Jays going forward are going to what are they going to have to do to account for, it looks like, not having Romano for a while? I mean, we don't know when he's going to be back.
Right.
Can you do Chad Green? Is that?
I still think it plays. I mean, he's still having a good year, and I saw some 95, 96s. And when it's 95 and above, it still plays. And I watched him last night and just thinking, man, I truly remember being in that box and looking at it. And I think I was telling Chris Black this. I remember being in the box saying, I'm about to nuke this because it's just it's a free and easy delivery. Nothing about the at-bat scares you away. It's a comfortable at-bat, and you see it well, you see it long, but it is by you. I mean, it is absolutely by you. And he's got that good downer slider, but that fastball, I think it's almost too good. And players get big, they get under it, and before you know it, you're walking back going, how in the world did I just miss 95, one half ball above the middle of the plate? And I like what he's doing. You still have to have surprises, and I think Little has been a huge surprise for me. That at-bat to Devers was, boy, I tell you what, that to me was good. I love the way that he, in that situation, handled the pressure. And Fenway Park's one of the hardest parks to play in, even when they're not an elite team. They just get going, and they were standing. I think it was, the 7th inning? They were standing, and they get that music going, and you could kind of feel, he could feel that emotion based off of his reaction after it. He felt the moment getting big. He didn't lose his cool, was able to get the strikeout.
You know, everybody, and people who've played at Fenway Park or people who've covered games there or seen games there, everybody says weird stuff tends to happen to Fenway Park. You've talked about the angles, the outfield walls, and all that. When you're a visiting team, and you would have done this a lot, when you're a visiting team going into Fenway Park, everybody talks about the green monster, but as a catcher especially, because you're kind of in charge of defense a lot of the times, catcher and the shortstop, does the defense, are guys aware that this is a freaky ballpark? You know what I mean? And does that affect the way guys prepare when they go out to a game? It's not a cookie cutter. There's angles to the walls. Barker's talked about little angles that you may not even see.
Absolutely. Everything about that park is unique, and you truly have to have experience. We would have a meeting in spring training on the team that I was on, and you'd go over these certain plays, video of balls ricocheting certain ways, trying to give players an idea of, who haven't played there, of how it was to be played. Much like Camden Yards in Baltimore, that wall, there's certain ricochets, and a lot of times you just need experience, which is why a guy like Springer and a guy like Kiermaier especially is so valuable out there. That ladder, I have seen, I don't know if you saw last night, they were pointing out the ladder. I have seen a ball ricochet off that ladder and jet all the way into center field. So, yes, and you're also strategy, how you throw guys changes dramatically because certain guys try and play wall ball. David Ortiz tried to play wall ball all day.
What was his line to you?
He never tried to pull the ball.
Never slump.
And
we had him on time, and he said on our show, and he said he loved playing at Fenway Park because it got me out of a slump. The Green Monster got me out of a slump.
It was part of my routine to go in there and watch batting practice every day as a youngster to figure out these guys' swings. I just seen them on TV. And I remember vividly the very first time I went to Fenway and I saw David Ortiz hitting batting practice. I promise you not one ball went to the right of center field. He hit every single ball in batting practice off that wall. The scariest part about it is how are you going to go in there and say, hey, guys, we can't throw him outside because he's hitting everything to the wall. And the pitchers are going, yeah, but you see it's like 315 down the right field line, bro. I ain't going inside.
Exactly.
So calling pitches was a headache there because your guys can flip their approach at any given moment. And you knew certain guys were doing it no matter what. And you tried to stay away from that. But Ortiz was by far the worst because he would ambush, turn and burn, cheat, step in the bucket, and just rip you to right center field. after he'd been going wall ball all day. I hated it. Oh, part of the reason I'm bald.
Yeah. Okay, last one. This is going to be a doozy.
It's going to be a doozy. Well, I'm just going to back up.
Jays need to go on a 8-2, 9-1 run. Other than Vladdy, give me a couple of reasons on how you think they could do that. A couple of reasons.
What if he doesn't think they can?
Then say it.
Can I pick the part of the schedule where they?
There's not really.
We
had Chris on and said there's never been as many good teams as there are this year. So I don't think they think that's a thing.
I do think Horwitz is. I do think Horwitz is going to be a player that is going to have sustained success. Is it going to be 25, 30 doubles, 40 doubles? I see him more of like a doubles guy, but you're just so hit or miss with so many players. I mean, I said this at the very beginning of the season. If everybody plays to their potential at the back of their baseball card, this team could be really good. It's just been maybe one or two guys hits a certain spurt where they play to those numbers for 5 games, and then they go cold, and then somebody else. And until 1 through 9 can do it cohesively, they have no shot because their pitchers are worn out. Let's be honest. Their pitchers are worn out. Watching Kevin Gausman having to throw extra pitches because of the lackadaisical defense, it is so obvious that they're A, frustrated, B, they're toast. They're gassed. And they can't sync it up. And unless they can sync it up, all phases, that's all.
It's got to be
big ask, but
for these guys, it's got to be that almost every pitch is a leverage pitch. If you're a starter right now.
Well, you saw how it looked differently, Kevin, after the third inning. And before the third inning and after the third inning.
There's a different, and when you battle in seasons like this and everything means so much, it drains you so much quicker. It's like hitting the turbo button on the Nintendo. Like it drains the energy so much faster when you feel that pressure, like we got to do it. Whereas you look at a team like the Yankees, they're not even panicking and so they're able to keep those energy levels and that adrenaline and the high leverage spots, what it does to you physically, it's hard to equate in terms of like a number, but you feel it and you wake up and you're going, holy smokes, like, is it September already? And you're like, no, we're not even in July.
Yeah, you can't grind. You can't grind 162. You just can't.
No.
It's a great answer.
It can't be done. Caleb, thanks for doing this, man.
You nailed it, buddy. You talked me into chemistry.
BS.
Yeah.
Respect.
It's a great thing when
I'll tell you what, I would score from first for you. No doubt.
Yeah, I know you would.
It's great. It's great when the hockey guys are on before us, when we cross over. Kiprios and him, Barker will say, I guess chemistry is a big thing in that hockey game, hey? Guys got to like each other. Got to huggy, like each other.
Yeah, punch each other in the face.
Thanks for this, Caleb.
You got it.
You're the best, buddy.
7:10 is the first pitch. Blair and Barker will be doing Blue Jays talk following the game. We'll be back to more from 4 to 6 Eastern. Have a great day.